Right now, we're short one member for a quorum. Possibly.
Oh, Councilor Hanlon, we need you as ex officio to make a quorum.
Yep.
He can,
All right.
right, and, like, he's probably getting his coat, so we can.
Where's the agenda?
A piece, you said?
Yeah, we have an agenda for the
This is just a subcommittee meeting, that's all that.
Right.
That's the whole piece, it's just one piece.
Right, usually, all right. No,
yeah,
it's okay, that's all right, no biggie.
I'm working off, what they gave me.
All right, well then, you leave it to me.
All right, and I'll give it right back. Okay.
I'd like to call the meeting in order of the Legislative Affairs. The clerk would read the attendant.
Councilor DePiero,
Here.
Councilor Hanlon,
Here.
Councilor Napolitano.
Here.
3 members present. You have a quorum.
If we could rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, would the clerk read the first item of business?
Temperamental. It's up down.
I believe that's...
Yeah, no, you can be right. I'm gonna count you as present when you go sit down. No, yeah, I'll call you. I'll call you right now. Thank you.
Okay. If you read the first item of business.
Item number 1 of the Legislative Affairs and Elections Committee is a resolution offered by Councilors John Leo McKinnon, Fred Capone, and Wayne Matusky that our state representatives sponsor a bill to the effect that any individual caught with a large amount of narcotics shall be charged with intent to distribute as a result of said amount and shall face mandatory imprisonment for 20 years. Invited sponsors are our state representatives. And I'll acknowledge Councilor Matusky as present.
Councilman Matusky?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councilman McKinnon is not here, but as we all know, we have an opiate crisis in this city and state and country. And I know that Representative McGonigal is very active at the State House on this issue. So I'd like to invite him, and is Council Capone also a co-sponsor? The two parties to explain what they can actually do at the State House level.
Okay, have a motion. Second, all in favor? Opposed? Gentlemen, if you'd state your name for the record.
Good evening, gentlemen. Fred Capone, 383 Broadway, Council Ward 1.
Good evening, gentlemen. Joe McGonigal, 46 Corey Street.
Councilman Matusky?
Thank you, Mr. President. Representative McGonigal, I know you've been active, you've attended meetings and seminars throughout the city and probably the state. Could you just maybe fill us in what the House of Representatives are looking at with this crisis?
Well, Councilor, as all of you know, I mean, the governor, we just passed an opiate bill, which has nothing to do with this, so I'll be very brief on that, for $138 million. Okay, in 2014, we had an $85 million appropriation for just for the opiate crisis that we have, so we've increased that budget tremendously. And once again, we are looking at prevention, education, and treatment. I'll get into this very briefly, gentlemen. What you're asking here is not what we're doing, okay? You already have this, and I just, so I can be clear to the sponsors, any individual caught with a large amount of narcotics, what is a large amount?
If I may,
Yeah.
I haven't even had a chance to talk to my fellow sponsors on this, but I did speak with Representative McGonigal. And yeah, I think the intention is good from the sponsors. Looking to do is address the opioid problem that we have, not only in this community but across the state. trying to help those folks that need help. Those who want help, we're going to do everything we can to help them. And I think the intention from the other end was try to get it from all angles and do what we can to make it, crack down as much as we can on those folks who are actually supplying, as opposed to, unfortunately, caught up in the net of using. And I had the good fortune to talk with our representative, and they are doing a lot of things at the state level. One thing that they are looking to shy away from is the mandatory sentencing, leaving that to the circumstances, leaving that to the courts. There is some stuff that's going on at State House. I'll let the representative speak to that. But after speaking to him about what's going on and what the position is at the state level, I would be asking that we refer this back to sponsor so we could do a little bit more work on our own if there's something else we want to do. But I do know that one of the committee members is also a sponsor, so I haven't even had a chance to speak to him about it. So I would defer to the state rep and then any questions you might have on what's going on there. But I think at this point in time, the intention was good, but I think we need to do a little bit more work on this. So that would be my recommendation.
Once again, and if I may, Mr. Chairman, in the 1980s, okay, they created, during the Reagan administration, they created the Chapter 94C, which has, and I do have a copy here, you can Google it and get it on, the website. It has all, the restrictions and the sentences that you get from 1 ounce of marijuana to 50 pounds of marijuana to heroin. Some of them are more stringent than what you're asking for here. Okay, 15 to 30 years you get for heroin trafficking. I mean, these sentences are as strong as committing second-degree murder. What has happened is that the little bit of knowledge that I know of it, because I'm not here, Mr. Chairman, to testify as an expert on this subject, but once again, the courts have been lenient. We're not going to arrest our way out of this predicament. You're not going to, you know what I mean? It's not. The whole idea behind what we're trying to do, I believe, across the country, is education, prevention, and then finally treatment. Locking them up in jail has failed, and you'll see the courts being very lenient with these sentences. But certain sentences are 15 to 30 years, stronger than what you're looking at in this. And I spoke with the counselor. I did speak with Senator Saldi Domenico, who can't be here this evening, and I do apologize, who wanted to be, because he's in the middle of the Senate budget, who wanted to speak on behalf of this. But the feeling up on the Hill is that this would fail, okay, trying to push this through. Now, it doesn't mean that the sponsors can't push it through. I'd gladly file it for them. They have a right to file it. But I don't see it moving forward because, once again, we have laws in place. We have sentencing in place. There's 30, 40 different ones. But for trafficking in heroin, mandatory 15 to 30 years, according to Chapter 94C. And I think that's what we're getting at, and that includes opiates, fentanyl, which I do want to say, gentlemen, one of the freshman reps that I'm very close to, Chief Tucker, Representative Tucker from Salem, he wrote the bill on fentanyl, and that just passed in February 2015. So very proud of him doing that, especially as a freshman colleague with me. Those sentences are rather strict for that. And once again, it's up to the judge.
Yeah.
They go to court, the judges look at it. Number one, where are they going to put them? In this country today, we spend more on prisons than we do on educating our children at home. So all of us know it's rather a large problem. And I do understand the intent. I see that a while back, Everett had the #1 opiate deaths, heroin overdoses in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Very sad to see that. Per capita, I believe there was 23 in 2014. So I do understand the intent with the sponsors with it, but I just don't think this is the way that we should go by filing legislation like this. And I'll do whatever the sponsors want me to do. I can file it by right. But I don't believe it's gonna, we already have strict sentencing in place in 94C. And I'd gladly leave a copy, maybe Carolyn can make a copy and give it to each one of you. Okay?
Councilman Hanlon?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll defer to Councilman DePiero.
Thank you, Representative McGonigal, for appearing tonight. I do understand what you're saying and how our representatives at the state level are kind of trying to shy away from this kind of response to the issue. It's my understanding that maybe we shouldn't go forward with this, but I do want to sit back for a second and let the sponsor speak one more time if he would like to, just out of respect for his piece.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I want to thank Councilman DePiero. Councilman McKinnon, as you know, has been very active. He had a nephew
Sure.
that passed on due to drug issues 12 years ago at the age of 17.
Yeah.
And you know his sister, and it's a terrible thing, and it's plagued the city.
All of us, Counselor, there isn't one person that we meet in the city of Everett that hasn't been affected by it, with a friend or a family member.
It's
So-
terrible. And then you read, Representative, in the paper that you've got, you know, in the last month or two, in the police blogs, the arrest blogs, you see a father and a son, both arrested
I did see
for,
that.
for selling drugs, you know, in our city. 52-year-old father and a 20-year-old son. And this is every week. We have a good drug enforcement, detective, law enforcement in the city, and that, we're thankful for that. But you can see, I think what Councilman McKinnon was getting at, he's had so many meetings, and Council Capone and myself, sometimes we want to try to solve an issue and as quickly as
I understand,
possible.
yeah.
But there's really no
I understand the frustration.
easy way to do this. But Council Capone is a sponsor also, along with myself and Council McKinnon. But I do want to thank you, Representative McGonigal. I know the good work that you're doing at the State House.
Thank you.
And previous to you, we had filed some treatment bills and more counselors to reach out to these families. If I don't get a call, I'd say every 2 weeks, from a grandmother who's got her grandchild living with her with 3 kids, and they need housing, and the grandmother's crying. This happens quite a bit with me because I was on the housing board. And it's such a painful experience to hear a 70, 80-year-old woman raising her grandchildren and great-grandchildren at this point. It's just really, there's no compassion for the parents. But anyway, moving forward, we do, Council McKinnon will be in touch with you, I'm sure, in this matter.
Good.
And Council Capone, as he said, do you have any further comments?
No, I understand, I think we all collectively understand what we're trying to do. We're just trying to do everything we can as a city to address this problem from every angle. And I think that we need to do a little bit more research on this, a little more work, and we're very fortunate to have the folks that we have at the state level for us. They're working hard for all of us on a daily basis. So collectively, we will find a way. But I would recommend that this be referred back to sponsor.
And I will make that motion, and I want to thank the committee. As I said, sometimes this may not have been worded exactly the way we wanted it, but I want to thank Representative McGonigal for appearing. I know how busy you are at the State House, and co-sponsor Capone. So I'll make the motion to refer this back to sponsor. I will speak to Council McKinnon to probably see what else that maybe we could do on this subject. Thank you.
Second.
Aye.
Just for the record, I'll leave you a copy of this, okay?
Move to adjourn. Second. Aye.